Welcome to BCJ Cast. My name is Jay. Joining me this week, like always, is Corey.
So,
And, of course, the walking conspiratorial shitpost, Brad.
Get ready to be black-pilled. You will kill yourself at the end of this podcast because you realize that the lizards own the world.
Right. Anyway, today's minicast is a bit of a special. It was not my idea, one of the few that have not been. And we will be talking about conspiracy theories. Our favorite conspiracy theories, and why they work. Or maybe not. Who knows? We'll probably never actually find out, so I mean, it's fun to speculate at least.
Well, speak for yourself. There are some conspiracies that have absolutely been proven.
Well, yes, but at that point, they're no longer conspiracy theories. They're just conspiracies.
Well, potato, tomato.
Tomato bowling shoes?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, those are my favorite conspiracy theories. The ones that have been proved. Only because it doesn't make me sound crazy. So, like, my roommate when I was in college was what I would call a crazy conspiracy theorist. He would spend all day and almost all night watching YouTube like videos about how Taylor Swift got jumped into a satanic like pedophile interdimensional alien cult when Kanye West interrupted her at the VMAs, and it would be a 3 hour video of some dude just like screaming into a shitty mic and then putting like video behind like the rants and talking about how you can tell in Beyonce's Lemonade video that she is in fact part of a satanic cult and trying to destroy Christian America.
I mean, isn't she?
I don't know. I mean, according to my roommate, nearly every celebrity is.
Well, let's be fair. Most of the celebrities we have in this world are really shitty people
But
that
I
do stand in direct opposition to what many would be considered the Christian ideology.
that's fair. But the conspiracy theories that I enjoy are real.
Well, Corey, do you have any conspiracy theories that you've particularly been fond of?
um, I mean, there's conspiracy theories that I've like that I've enjoyed looking at, but don't necessarily believe.
Go shoot. Give me one.
Um, uh, Harvey Lee Oswald didn't assassinate JFK. That's one.
Yeah. Yeah,
Lee
that's an
Lee
interesting
Harvey
one.
Oswald, not Harvey Lee.
Whatever. Yeah, Lee Harvey Oswald did not kill JFK, and
That is a popular one.
Well, the which one? There are about
Yeah,
1,000.
there are like 1,000 different variations of he didn't kill.
I think
Everything from he didn't kill to well he did, but he had assistance from the CIA and all that stuff.
yeah, and then he also gets assassinated. What, like not even a day later? 2 days
Oh, we'll get
later.
into that.
Another one is Jeffrey Epstein, but I'm pretty sure I'll just let Jordan take over on that one.
Well, I mean, it's not even really a conspiracy theory. It's just fact that Epstein didn't kill himself.
Yeah.
Well, it's not. Unfortunately, it's not fact. But I'd say about 98% of the population doesn't believe the official story.
I mean, yeah, I think that's kind of obvious.
And then we got uh I saw a meme where it was dear everybody who doubted the conspiracy theorists, or if you're a conspiracy theorist in 2020, you are entitled to an apology.
Yeah. Well, probably pre 2020. I've
Yeah.
been a conspiracy theorist since high school.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's been kind of a funny year, for conspiracy theories because a lot of stuff has come out as being like kind of true. What was the what like so one of the most popular conspiracy theories right now is the whole QAnon bullshit. I don't think anybody here believes it, and honestly doesn't make a lick of sense if you really look into it. But if you go on Wikipedia, right, and you look at the QAnon page, one of the things that it says under false claims by Q is that some of the global elites and members of politicians' families are pedophiles and that the media is covering up for them. And that's one of the things that they used to discredit Q. Now, I don't know if you guys remember 2 months ago, but there was a laptop that was found from a very, very prominent political figure's son, which depicted for better, more or less pedophilic videos that this individual took of himself. Um, a couple of them, I believe. And the media said, "Oh no, the whole thing's bullshit. It's not real." Um,
Yeah.
you know what that sounds like? That sounds like political elites in their family being pedophiles and using the media to cover it up.
Yeah.
And then the
But that's just a
FBI
conspiracy theory. It's not real.
and then the FBI accidentally destroyed the computer.
Well, it's a good thing that the guy that originally turned it in had backup copies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had backup copies of the hard drive.
Well, the FBI is now that Joe Biden already got elected, electing to actually investigate the case.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, uh, his son is actually now under active investigation, um, for a couple things, including money laundering. That was an interesting one.
Yeah. Well, I
Right.
mean, literally, if anyone paid attention to Hunter Biden like 2 years ago, it would have been incredibly obvious that there was money laundering going on. Because I mean, he's a uh, isn't he he's on some board or something of a
Yes.
Ukrainian?
Burisma.
Yeah,
That's what actually launched the impeachment investigation. Was how exactly he got this job and his connections to it, and the fact that Biden used his position as vice president to get Burisma to fire the lead prosecutor. I believe his name was Shokin. I believe.
it was something like
Um,
that.
yeah, Shokin was. So I did a lot of research into this a while ago, but Shokin was disliked as a prosecutor because he was corrupt. But in his corruption, he actually balanced power in in the Ukraine. And so, while a lot of people outside of Ukraine, as far as the EU is concerned, really disliked him and wanted him out of power because some of the aid that went to Ukraine would go missing, and he was kind of the final, he was the final stop before it went missing. Uh, a lot of the officials in Ukraine actually were like kind of happy he was there because he made sure that things were taken care of fairly and put Ukraine's best interests, in place. Um, and they agreed with that and they were okay with him up until the Burisma stuff. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but Burisma was the only company in the Ukraine that was keeping the Ukraine from having to heavily rely on Russia for energy. And so by Shokin opening that investigation into Burisma, well, not opening it, but taking it over and then actually starting to go hard on it, it raised a lot of hell. Because if Burisma went down, which would have most likely been the result of that investigation, he, yeah, it would have been really bad for them.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really pay attention to the Hunter Biden thing until all the shit was going down, with the
Yeah.
laptop and stuff like that. Then I did look into it, and then it's just like, oh yeah, there's obviously some sort of corruption going on. I mean, literally a 2-minute Google search would tell you just that.
hmm Yeah, it was so obvious. Even back during the impeachment investigation, it was it was obvious that there was some like bullshit that was going on there, and it's just a shame that it never really got fully investigated. There's um there's an argument to be made that the the impeachment investigation should not have happened to begin with, because we needed first an investigation into Hunter Biden to determine if his position on the board or what his father did, Joe Biden, president elect, um, was actually legal or lawful. And then after that, you can go into assessing whether or not what Trump did would be impeachment worthy. Because there's a lot of people that believe that it honestly really wasn't. It's just how politics works. People say, "Oh, it's quid pro quo." Well, that's literally that's how all foreign politics works. That's how it's always worked for forever. Is just you scratch my back, I scratch yours. The allegations are of course, that it was for personal gain, but in reality, at that time, at that specific time, Joe Biden was not a president elect. He was not even the front runner for the Democrat Party. And the fact that he had been the previous vice president was a pretty strong indicator of the fact that any wrongdoing should need to be prosecuted. And then you had all the stuff come out just a little over a month ago with Hunter Biden's laptop, revealing a lot of new information regarding how his father basically levied his position as vice president to get in with all these different people across multiple countries, including China, and make all these financial deals and all of this because he was vice president. That's really, really alarming. And the fact that nobody was willing to investigate it is a really bad sign for the country.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I hate to say, like, none of this shit gets investigated because there are too many people who are being paid either by those countries or by you know, the administration itself, or the person who's uh, going to be part of the administration.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a shame. But yeah, no, that was all just a little bit of a caveat off of the Epstein thing. How fun. Um, Another one of my personal, I don't want to say, I don't want to call it a personal favorite, but one of the ones that I always found the most interesting was 9/11 was an inside job. Corey, thoughts?
Um, I think I'm just gonna only say one thing and one thing only about it. Jet fuel cannot melt steel beams.
Yeah, especially whenever they just supposedly a few weeks prior, the building had just been retreated with fire retardant coating for some of the superstructure.
And
Supposedly, you
one
know.
one of the things that I also knew, like was suspicious about it was it fell. The towers fell like they were basically in a controlled demolition.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's one of those other things that's just like, this looks really weird. Especially when you look at some of the aftermath, some of the wreckage at Ground Zero. You see how you see some of the some of the steel beams, and they don't look like they were torn apart or twisted apart. It almost looked like they were sheared apart, which is very strange. Uh, Especially whenever you're looking at beams that were not near impact zone of the flight. Um, and then, of course, you combine that with the traces of thermite that was found in the wreckage. Uh, yeah, you start getting some questions that need to be answered.
And what I think it was the first tower that got hit. It got hit up. It got hit high, right?
Hmm.
And you would expect that even if there was damage to the building, that the bottom would still be the bottom would still be strong enough to keep it up for repairs?
I mean, maybe. It's possible. Um, but there have been bigger engineering flaws,
Yeah,
in the world.
yeah, that's fair.
I mean, it's not it's not outlandish to think that maybe there was a bit more to it, but I think I do think that there is definitely some impropriety there, especially whenever you take a look at the some of the insurance stuff. So this is one of those little known facts is just a few months before the 9/11 attacks in New York, the owner of the World Trade Center took out I want to say it was a $2.5 billion insurance policy on the World Trade Center. Something he had not done before, and after 9/11, he was able to claim that insurance policy for I believe I believe they ended up giving him $5 billion.
So it got
For
paid
both
out
of the main,
twice.
yeah, for both of the main towers that went down. I believe they denied it on the other World Trade Center building that collapsed, but they did approve it on the two main ones. I think the reason they denied it on the third, what building was that? Was that 17?
I don't.
It was either 17 or 11, and I can't remember which one.
I don't think it was 11. I think it was 17.
Well, I mean, Tower 7 fell by itself.
Yeah, Tower 7 was wow. Um, but yeah, it was I believe it was building 17 at the World Trade Center. That collapsed not explicitly due to terrorist activities. Some people disagree over to what caused it. Some people believe it was destroyed by falling debris or by shockwaves or by possibly more impropriety. But the reason it collapsed is unknown as of in entirety. There's still a question mark. I know a lot of people say, oh well, the official report says this, but well, with what we know, the official report is kind of bullshit. But yeah, no, he took out a $2.5 billion insurance policy and got paid out $5 billion for it after taking the insurance company to court. So that's one of those things. Just like, yeah, I can see where there might be some issues with this whole. Oh, we didn't know anything about this coming at all. What a mystery.
So it wasn't Building 17 or Building 11. It was Building 5. Building 5 endured a large fire and partially collapsed on its steel structure.
Okay, thank you for the correction.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I knew one of the building. I knew it was one of the buildings. I just didn't remember the number.
We both got it wrong.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's one of those things. It's just like, yes, it endured a large fire. How did that fire start?
Yeah. And then there's Building 7, which was almost completely untouched, and then just fell in a free fall for no reason.
Yeah, like it was a controlled demolition.
Hey,
Hmm.
yeah. Curious questions. One of the really interesting things is they actually recovered the black box. There are people that were there that found the black box being recovered from one of the planes, and to this day it's considered to be unrecovered. It was never found.
Just a real quick, just side note. I mean that by itself is ridiculous, but I think it's a, if I remember correctly, it's a Mitch Hedberg joke that I think both of you would appreciate. What did they make the black box out of?
Oh Lord.
Don't know, but they should make the rest of the plane out of that too.
So I'm looking at the diagram of like the attacks of the of 9/11, and I can understand why Building 5 would endure like a large fire is because the fuselage, whatever, fuselage section dropped from Building 2 onto Building 5 from the plane. But yeah, but Building 7, Building 7, if when World Trade Center 1 went down, it still had World Trade Center 6 in front of it. So it just makes no sense why it would just fall down.
Well, I was gonna say back to building 5. Um, I'm still not 100% sure how that would cause a fire,
Yeah.
because so the fuselage, um, that's just the main body of a plane. Um, you don't keep fuel generally in the fuselage. So even if it fell on there, that wouldn't necessarily cause a fire. It might cause some structural damage, but that's strange. That's very strange to me.
Well, as you see, the fuselage hit the CIA planted thermite, and then the whole
Oh,
thing
okay.
went
Well,
up.
okay. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
But I mean, the Pentagon attack is the weirdest one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one's the one that, like, you can say okay, fine. Let's just take for granted that everything about the World Trade Center is accurate, and it was completely unknown. The Pentagon is the part of the 9/11 attacks that just doesn't make any fucking sense, and there are so many question marks regarding that to this day
Like
that refuse to be answered.
the Pentagon is what, 5 stories high?
Hmm.
How do they get a plane that big of a plane that low to hit it?
Correct. I mean, there's that question. There's the question of the day before. Brad, you can probably go into detail about this one, but the day before there was an announcement made by the government. What was that announcement?
That $2 trillion had gone missing.
Mm-hmm. $2 trillion had gone missing, and the accounting department. Uh, if there was any record of where that money would be, it would be in the accounting department in the records there. And wouldn't you know, the exact next day, the accounting department blows up
Because it got hit by a plane.
because it got hit by a plane. Oh no, what happened? Of course, if you actually look at the security footage that we have, you don't see a plane. You don't see anything, actually. You just see the explosion.
And the next
Um,
day, what's worldwide news as opposed to, hey, the Pentagon lost $2 trillion?
it's, hey, the Pentagon got hit and the towers went down and 3,000 people died.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the other really interesting things about the Pentagon is if you look at the impact zone, it's a hole.
Yeah.
It's just a hole.
Yeah.
There's no damage that would indicate any other appendages from whatever hit in that area. And also, very curiously, do you know what went missing from one of the local arsenals of the military around this point?
I believe you said it was a missile.
It was a very, very high-speed missile. So fast, this missile can go so fast that uh, it can actually be missed. It can go so fast that the recording on a camera will actually miss it, which would
Interesting.
which would go a long way to explaining why we don't see a plane on those security cameras.
Yeah. Well, I
Well,
mean, the other thing, too, like if you look at the building itself, right? That was a plane going who knows how fast, but it's a big fucking plane. And I don't know if
Yeah,
you guys know about the Newton's laws of dynamics, but when an object comes to rest, it doesn't just immediately come to rest. There's it will take a lot of force to make an
yeah.
object come to
Friction and
rest.
gravity and air resistance, all of that stuff.
All of that stuff. So when a plane hits a building, unless it's a big, massive, wide building like the World Trade Centers were, the Pentagon is not that big. Parts of the plane should have come out the other side, but instead
Yeah,
it's just a hole.
yeah, I was gonna
yep.
ask
One single hole.
if it was a plane, like why don't we have any like remnants of said plane?
They did recover an engine that did not match the type of plane that was recorded to have crashed into that section of the Pentagon. So there's that. I mean, we did recover an engine. It didn't match the plane that was supposed to have hit there, but details, right?
But also, also with the fact is if a plane did hit the Pentagon, right? One of the most durable things about a plane is probably the wings, right? Where the
Mm-hmm.
fuck are the wings?
Yeah, they just vaporized, I'm guessing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And no black box was ever recovered.
Mm-hmm. And that leads me into another part of aspect of 9/11. So there was a fourth plane went down in Pennsylvania.
Flight 93.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Shippensburg or something like that? Sharpsburg?
Sharpsburg. Um, so I have an acquaintance. I will not name them, and it's going to become obvious. I have an acquaintance who has family out there that was that was around whenever it happened, and this individual told me a story about their brother, and they said that on the day of 9/11, when they heard all this stuff going on, they actually saw the plane overhead, and it was being followed by I believe he said two fighter jets, and it was kind of low to the ground, and it was low enough that he could see the air to air missile ordnance through his binoculars on the fighter jets, and thought it was kind of weird, and so he didn't really think anything of it that day, and was talking to somebody else a bit later after the event, and that individual had also seen those jets go over and looked at it through the binoculars. This was after the plane crashed, and looked at it through binoculars and saw that they had two the one jet had two air to air missiles on it, which is really interesting because whenever it passed by the original guy, it had four.
Hmm. I mean, shit like that wouldn't surprise me.
No, it wouldn't surprise me at all, especially because we know that they if it's all true, we know that they overpowered the crew and were intending to crash the plane, and it's possible that the government just decided to just shoot it down over the open field instead, because that would have been the best location for it to go down without any more collateral damage. But it's just a very interesting story, especially when you consider that a few days later, a black van showed up outside of this man's house and asked him what he saw, and he told them not a damn thing, and they not talked to him since.
Well, damn.
Yeah, Hoover Dam.
Hoover Dam.
Hoover Dam.
Yeah. Is where JFK is buried. I'm sorry, living.
Living. Oh, he's still alive.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's in a secret base underneath the Hoover Dam. And actually, I don't know if you know this, but he's the one who released the COVID pandemic.
Oh wow. I mean, I didn't know. I did not know that one.
Yeah, he's coming back to rule over the what's left of the population once this virus mutates.
Zombie JFK.
Yep.
Yeah. I think he would still be a better president than Biden.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite recent conspiracy theories that is no longer a theory because it's kind of been proven is that China with the whole COVID stuff, we know that they covered up how exactly it came to be, but we have enough evidence to know what exactly happened now. So it went from being a conspiracy theory to a conspiracy fact that China knew about this virus for a while and let it get out of hand. We'll say that
Yeah.
because we know what lab it started in, and to clear it up, no, it was not being developed as a weapon. It was being studied by an award-winning Chinese scientist, a biologist, who was studying this new a new strain of coronavirus that was found in bats, and we know that as a fact. We also know that this scientist went missing in November last year and has not been seen since, even though a spokesman for the Chinese government says she is alive and well. Her family has not seen her since last year.
Well, when the Chinese government says someone's okay, that's
It's a lie.
Well, wait, it
It's a
is.
lie. Oh yeah, when the Chinese government says somebody's okay, it's a lie.
I remember the reporter that made the Wuhan Diaries. She also is doing fine and is okay,
Even though nobody's seen her.
even though nobody has seen her.
Yeah, it's one of those interesting things. It's just like, I wonder what happened here. It involves China. Who knows? It's not like they're known for having concentration camps and death squads or anything. It's not like they, welded families inside of their house so they couldn't escape because there was a case of COVID. That never happened.
Well, it didn't. At least not
Mhm.
officially. And I mean,
And not officially.
God forbid. God forbid. That's why it's officially, because they only tell the truth officially.
Mm-hmm. Officially.
Officially.
Yeah, no, that whole rabbit hole that I found the one day was very interesting. It's quite nice whenever you have somebody that's a native English speaker that can speak Chinese very fluently as well. Be able to go and look at archives of Chinese websites to see things like job listings, reports, and things like that. And also is able to notice that between archives of when people are removed from faculty rosters.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
I wish I could speak Chinese.
Oh man, I wish. Honestly, I don't want to speak Chinese. Not gonna lie, I want nothing to do with China, dude. If I had my choice, the entire world would just wall off China and say, "Deal with yourself, then come back to the world stage."
I think they got us halfway there already, didn't they?
The new Great Wall.
Yeah, built by everybody else around China. Just a massive dome around China that extends into the air and into the sea.
The Mongolians strike back.
The Mongolians strike back.
This new wall can be seen in outer space.
We're gonna build a wall and we're gonna make China pay for it.
I think Mongolia would help us out.
Probably.
It's called reparations, guys. Look it up.
Mongolians are pretty Chad, though.
They are quite Chad.
So, are there any other conspiracy theories, Corey, that you like or appreciate?
The frogs have been turned gay.
They're turning the friggin' frogs gay.
Oh man, that's
that remix is phenomenal.
That remix is my background, like my computer background.
Place Boeing. I love that remix you did.
Yes,
it's great. I will, if I remember to, I will link it in the description for anybody that's listening that has not heard the Gay Frogs remix by Alex Jones by Place Boeing. Yeah, that'll be in the description if I can remember to put it there because it's phenomenal.
It's quite good. It's one of my favorite Alex Jones songs. The other being Alex Jones is a folk song.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other one that I really like is the Alex Jones Seven Nation Army remix.
Oh.
Oh, who was? I think it was Salmonella's second channel, if I remember correctly.
Hmm.
He did that. It's pretty clever.
Yeah.
Well, Brad, I've got my conspiracy theory out of the way. I think Corey's got his out of the way. Why don't you? I know you like to rant about conspiracy theories, so let's hear one.
Let me pull out my 4 pages of notes.
Alright.
Let's see. Have you guys ever heard of a little something called Project MK Ultra?
A little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit. How much is a little bit?
Let's see. I know that MK Ultra was used by the CIA, experimenting on American citizens with psychedelics, and other forms of like manipulation slash attempting to like mind control or brainwash people. In fact, there were documents that were declassified in 2018, um, about a part of MK Ultra being trying to use brain implant chips on dogs.
And fun little fact about the 2018 declassified files: there were 5 cases in which it worked.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
But anyway, so for those who don't know, mostly the listeners, and just to fill you two guys in, so Project MK Ultra was started in 1953 officially. It originally went under the name Operation Bluebird, and then became Operation Artichoke, and then Project MK Ultra. Um, it was a CIA project, so it was the CIA attempting to uh, basically the theory is create create what are known as Manchurian candidates. Do you know what those
Do you
are?
want to go ahead and explain those? Because I'm sure there's going to be people that don't know what those are.
Basically, like they a Manchurian candidate was supposed to be someone who was either dosed with psychedelics or brainwashed or whatever into essentially becoming a killing machine. So someone who would normally, with their moral code, their own moral code, would never ever commit a murder or anything like that. And then through brainwashing and psychedelics and hypnosis and stuff like that, they could become essentially an assassin, but a perfect assassin because your Manchurian candidate wouldn't remember anything about their programming or any uh, contact they had with their programmer or why they killed that person, just that they did,
A sleeper agent.
essentially.
In a way, yes.
So that the term comes from a book called The Manchurian Candidate, which was then turned into a movie and then turned into a movie again. Um,
As all the greatest movies are.
and basically, it's just been used ever since to describe what MK Ultra was trying to do, was trying to accomplish, and officially, according to um, um, what's his name, Richard Helms, the former CIA director at the time, um, it never did. They were never able to accomplish that.
According to them.
According to them, it was the project itself though was the like attempted creation of these, and it also had other things that they wanted to accomplish. They wanted to learn how to brainwash someone, how to um, how to better interrogate someone, um, using psychedelics and things like sensory deprivation and hypnosis to create artificial psychotic breaks in someone. It had bunch of potential a bunch of potential areas where this could have gone, but the project itself, MK Ultra, was basically just them attempting to study and find out what they can do. Anyway, but they used unknowing U.S. and Canadian citizens as test subjects,
Yep.
which is highly illegal because the CIA can't operate on domestic soil, but there are plenty of informed consent laws that get thrown by the wayside in a project like this. They would use LSD, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, as well as verbal and sexual abuse to try and get what they wanted.
Always lovely.
Yeah. Um, it was officially halted in 1973, but that was only after an article in the New York Times dropped because of FBI whistleblowers, or not FBI. I'm sorry, CIA whistleblowers. There were congressional hearings, two of them. One was headed by Gerald Ford. The other was headed by Ted Kennedy and a senator named Inouye. I'm forgetting his first name. But the hearings essentially did nothing. Just talk. Basically, didn't do anything. Basically, the came to the conclusion that MK Ultra was a failure, but what the CIA and FBI did was horrible. And then nothing ever happened beyond that. Like the CIA never got in trouble, didn't get disbanded or anything like that. But one of the big reasons that the investigation and the hearing were hampered so much is because Richard Helms in 1973 destroyed all of the files pertaining to MK Ultra, Operation Bluebird, and Operation Artichoke. In 1973, after the public outcry and outrage over Watergate. So Richard Helms was like, shit, they're going to find out about this highly illegal thing that we did. And Richard Nixon just went down for something similar, so we're getting rid of all these files.
Yeah.
The only,
As you do.
as you do, the only reason anything survived that purge was because a couple financial records tied to MK Ultra survived because they were improperly stored.
Gotta love the government. Can't even store their files properly.
Yeah.
Thank you, incompetence.
Yeah. So I mean, there are about 20,000 documents that survived, and most of them are now declassified. And the classified ones you can also look up with a Freedom of Information Act request.
Yep.
But anyway, the project itself wasn't headed by Richard Helms. Richard Helms was just the CIA director at the time. The project was headed by a guy named Sidney Gottlieb.
Oh, okay. I have a feeling this might tie into Operation Paperclip.
It does.
With a last name like that?
Kind of very loosely, but we'll get into that later.
So just very quick digression here. Operation Paperclip was the operation used to bring over German scientists from Nazi Germany after World War II and integrate them into multiple parts of governmental and science programs in the United States. And like I said, the name Gottlieb is incredibly German, which is why that's the first thing I thought of was if a guy with the last name Gottlieb is working on something like MK Ultra, and you look at some of the tests that the Nazis were doing over in Nazi Germany with drugs and human experimentation, then there's a bit of a connection there.
Yeah. Well, so Sidney Gottlieb was the project manager when it was officially started in 1953.
Mm-hmm.
Under the order of former CIA director Alan Dulles.
Mm-hmm.
He was a PhD. Sidney Gottlieb was a PhD chemist from California Institute of Technology, and joined the CIA fairly soon after college. He's got two nicknames which really jumped off the page to me. He was called the Black Sorcerer and the Dirty Trickster.
Huh.
And he testified before the church committee, which is the one headed by Ted Kennedy
Yeah,
and NUA.
yeah, it was the one that was to discover all this stuff.
Interestingly, he testified under an alias. The alias was Joseph Schneider.
Still incredibly German.
Still incredibly German.
You think at this point people would be trying to distance themselves from any allusion to Germanness, considering that this was still not that long after World War II.
Well, you would think, but
Yeah.
I mean, it was the 1950s when this thing got started.
What is it with my people and just running these experiments? So if anybody doesn't know, I have a lot of German blood in my body. We'll say that I'm not actually German. Not actually German. That's not my country of origin. I'm full-blooded American, but genetically speaking, I am incredibly German. So, what is it with my people and doing these things?
Less empathy. I don't know.
Man,
Probably. I mean, have you met me?
Yeah, you're not that empathetic, but that's all right.
No.
We like you anyway.
My
Lies.
my false identity would probably be Ivan Ivanovsky, if I had to go with a certain name just like his. Because you just take two letters off my last name and you get one very interesting one.
What's
Yeah.
what's the one from my pseudonym in Jordan playing Warhammer 2 would know the reference. Van von Volkvan would be mine.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the back to MK Ultra. So there were about 80 colleges and hospitals around the country that decided to take part in the experiment and received like grants and funds from the CIA itself to do so. There were safe houses established, which were placed in like notable U.S. cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, and New York, and obviously others. Any town where there was one of these colleges that took part. But the one in San Francisco is the one of the safe houses in San Francisco is one of the more notable ones. Which is where Operation Midnight Climax took place.
I was to say, you were telling me a little bit about this one yesterday.
Yeah.
This is one I had not heard of.
So Operation Midnight Climax was under like Project Ultra or MK Ultra. It was a offshoot of it. So Operation Climax was the designation of one specific safe house, but the safe house was set up to look like a brothel, hence Operation Midnight Climax. It's a cum joke by the CIA back in the 60s. Anyway, but it was set up to look like a brothel, and the prostitutes that quote unquote worked there were on the CIA dime. So they were hired by the CIA to lure potential customers into specially designed rooms, which this, I think you know where this is going. They would, the Johns, as they're called, like the people, the potential customers would be dosed by dirty water or by an aerosol spray with psychedelic drugs, mostly LSD and like DMT and stuff like that. And then would be monitored by doctors behind one-way glass and CIA agents behind one-way glass. And there were other victims too, not just Johns. There were heroin addicts that got lured there with the promise of more heroin.
Lovely.
Yeah, just great, great, great people the CIA are bringing in. Anyway,
Absolutely. Of course.
but
Of
I'm
course.
the
I'm
the
assuming that the college was Berkeley, right, for San Francisco.
Berkeley's around there. I'm sure there are a number of them there. But the college in San Francisco had nothing to do with this. Like
Yeah.
this wasn't well, Berkeley didn't anyway. There is another college that was did take part of MK Ultra in the area. Anyway, but like the Johns would be subjected to interrogation and basically told if they didn't give up like their secrets, like if they didn't comply with the interrogation, that their trips would be extended. So basically, they were threatening like, "Hey, tell us more, or we're going to give you another dose of LSD, and you're going to be in here
Yep.
for another who knows how long."
Hotel California.
Yeah.
You can check out any time you'd like, but you can never leave.
Yeah. But anyway, they were basically just preying on people who they thought, like the CIA thought, would be like too embarrassed to tell anyone about like what happened,
Hmm.
and a lot of people didn't. Obviously,
Obviously.
obviously. um, but anyway, back to that. That's just Operation Midnight Climax in a nutshell, and that gives you an idea of like what like what parts of MK Ultra were trying to do.
Yeah.
But they were some of the hospitals that like took most of the hospitals that like took part in the MK Ultra experiments were mental hospitals. So they would experiment. They would basically dose mental patients with LSD just to see what would happen,
Hmm.
and again try to like interrogate them and brainwash them and stuff like that.
Yeah. Really terrible stuff.
Yeah, they experimented on prisoners and other government employees. So if you ever wanna, work for the government, just beware the you know CIA agent that might be dosing your coffee when you go into work
Yeah. Really.
tomorrow. Anyway, but so obviously none of these people knew that they were going to get drugged. Hence the whole informed consent, like why this project was so illegal. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Like no shit.
there were several deaths like connected to MK Ultra. There was one of the ones that I could find anyway. An United States Army biochemist and biological weapons researcher named
Okay.
Frank Olson. He was given LSD in a hotel room, or I'm sorry, not in a hotel room, an apartment in New York. Um, he was up there on government business, but he wasn't told he was going to be drugged.
Ugh.
Um, and he died after falling out of a 13th story window.
Hmm. I
Damn.
mean, that is a way to go.
It was ruled a suicide for obvious reasons, because the government was involved and someone fell from something. But his family actually won a wrongful death lawsuit against the government in, I think, 1975, after all the MK Ultra stuff came out.
Yeah. That. I'm not surprised, honestly.
Didn't change the official ruling on his death, but they did win a wrongful death lawsuit. And then in 1994, the family tried to sue again.
Hmm.
Um, it got denied, but part of the second trial, uh, Frank's body was exhumed, and there were cranial injuries that suggested he was unconscious before the fall, that he got knocked unconscious
Oh,
before the fall. Um,
that's pretty major.
so the allegation that the family made was that Frank was killed by his own government and then thrown out the window to make it look like a suicide. The case got dismissed, but only because they had previously won another wrongful death lawsuit.
Oh. Well, I mean, it's definitely some interesting information to acquire then.
Well, but just one of the weird things I didn't know. For sure, Jordan, it is. But like the one of the weird things that I found just doing like a lot of research are some of the like people who were supposedly MK Ultra like subjects. Some voluntarily, like Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, was
Mm.
a voluntary subject of the MK Ultra experiments while he was a student at Harvard, and then immediately after college, he went nuts and moved to the woods. Well, he
Yeah.
didn't go nuts, but he became paranoid that like technology was going to take over his life and
Um,
everyone's lives, and then started mailing bombs to like professors and engineers and stuff like that.
I wonder what would happen if his brother never saw that article. Like if his brother never saw the letter that Ted Kaczynski mailed to the New York Post, I believe.
He'd probably still be alive and kicking. Although he almost got caught though a couple times by his neighbors, if I remember one documentary that I saw on YouTube 5 years ago correctly. Anyway, but some of the other people who were MK Ultra were experimented on. Do you guys know who Whitey Bulger is?
Yes.
I have no idea who that is. Never heard of it.
Okay,
Uh, um, he was actually played by Johnny Depp in a movie that is actually pretty good.
he was a massive like gangster in
Mm.
I think what the
Boston.
70s.
Yeah, I
It's
believe it
like
was.
70s and 80s.
Yeah, and he was from Boston.
Boston.
Boston,
Boston.
Boston, right by the harbor.
Harbor.
Anyway, but he was in prison in 1954, and then came out and said like, "Hey, the government did experiments on me while I was in prison," which I wouldn't put it past him. Anyway, and then there's Sirhan Sirhan. Do you guys know who that is?
No.
No.
Okay, he was the guy that assassinated Robert F. Kennedy,
Oh,
JFK's brother, I think,
Oh,
older
okay.
yeah,
brother,
yeah.
former Attorney General of the United States.
When he was running for president, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think that was JFK's younger brother.
but Sirhan Sirhan's lawyer claimed that Sirhan Sirhan was had essentially that Sirhan Sirhan at the time of the attack was a MK Ultra, was basically a Manchurian candidate sent to sent
Mm.
to kill Robert Kennedy. Um, but then doing a little bit deeper. So this is all just sort of surface level MK Ultra stuff, whatever.
Yep.
Um, uh, dig a little bit deeper into MK Ultra, and one name keeps popping up over and over and over again, and that is a guy, Lewis West, aka Jolly West.
Okay.
He was he was an MK Ultra experimenter and a CIA contractor. He was he was like a psychiatrist, and got grants to work with LSD,
Okay.
um, over and over and over again. He once killed an elephant with LSD. Um, but anyway, he got a grant from the CIA while he was working as the chairperson of the psychology department at the University of Oklahoma, um, and then did his residency at Cornell University, which is interestingly um, one of the sites of like an MK Ultra like institution. So
Okay.
Cornell University took money from the CIA to run experiments for them. Um, and basically, Jolly West was a big. He was one of the bigger experimenters, like within the MK Ultra project, and was specifically devoted to the study of brainwashing. He was only identified as one of the top researchers during the Senate hearings,
Mm-hmm.
um, and also ran a separate experiment in San Francisco as part of the MK Ultra experiment. He would lure hippies in the mid '60s to a flop house, and then have like undercover graduate students drug them with LSD and study the effects. So he at the time he was working for UCLA. He was he was a psychiatry professor, I believe, at UCLA, and then like got his like grad students to basically like dress in jeans and vests and grow their hair long and shit like that, so they would blend in with hippies, and then lure them to this like
To these
flop house
places.
in the middle of like the summer of love
Yep.
in San Francisco, uh, right about the time that Charles Manson was in San Francisco.
Yeah, I was thinking about that connection.
Yeah, um, yeah. Charles Manson was in San Francisco at the time, and um, Charles Manson, after San Francisco, spent about 2 years in San Francisco, right? Um, and visited a place called the Height Ashbury Free Medical Center frequently, because that's where he would meet his parole officer,
Mm-hmm.
and was also a place where Jolly West had an office.
Huh. Interesting.
So Charles Manson and his family would go there, Charles Manson to meet his parole officer, and the family to get like tested, basically. Have like pregnancies taken care of and stuff like that. But literally at the exact same time that Jolly West had a center there. So the Manson family spends like 2 years and like on the street and visiting the office where one of the main head like MK Ultra people worked, and then Charles Manson, through brainwashing and his charisma or whatever, convinces the Manson family to murder Sharon Tate, who was one of the biggest movie stars at the time.
Yep.
And then after that, the hippie movement ended, because hippies were a bunch of drug taking crazy lunatics that were gonna marry, or not marry, murder, you know, movie stars and your family too.
Gotta love it.
Yeah, but anyway, I've got even more on Jolly West. He's got ties to Jack Ruby,
Who is Jack Ruby?
the guy who killed Lee Harvey Oswald in front of
Oh, okay.
cops and about 1,000 news cameras, as Lee Harvey Oswald was uh, going to jail. Um,
Okay.
Jack Ruby killed him, and the psychiatrist that was to take like his statement and make sure that he was uh, mentally fit to stand trial was none other than the CIA asset Jolly West.
Huh.
Huh.
Connections upon connections. I wonder if there's a connection.
There's a connection.
I don't know, man. I don't know if I believe that.
I mean, well, yeah, Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. Anyway,
Totally.
uh, the that one I can't remember much about like what happened after. I just know Jolly West was his psychiatrist, Jack Ruby's psychiatrist. He was a big part of the trial of Jack Ruby.
Hmm.
Um, and Jack Ruby, like after meeting with Jolly West and stuff like that would basically be a raving lunatic. So
Yeah.
make of that what you will. The theory,
Makes total sense to me, guys.
well, the theory being that Lee Harvey Oswald was the fall guy, and then Jack Ruby was a Manchurian candidate to kill Lee Harvey Oswald, so no one would ever make the connection that the CIA or any government agency was involved in the killing of Robert F. Kennedy, or not Robert,
John.
John F. Kennedy.
Didn't Jack Ruby also commit suicide as well?
Later, in prison, I think.
Okay.
And then, have you guys ever heard of the Jimmy Shaver case?
No.
Have you ever heard of Lackland Air Force Base?
Can't say I have.
Okay,
I know a MacDill Air Force Base, but that's in Tampa.
There's the Lackland Air Force Base in Virginia. And there was an interesting thing that happened. I believe it was in the 50s. I want to say it was the 50s, like late 50s, before he went like out west. He was in the CIA at the time, but he hadn't yet gone to San Francisco. So there's a flight instructor named Jimmy Shaver at the Lackland Air Force Base who is suffering from massive migraines to the point where he has to, like, every day for just a little bit of relief, dunk his entire head into a bucket of ice water. Okay. So he goes to see the doctor at the base, okay, who prescribes a course of experimental treatment.
Okay.
Anyone want to guess the doctor's name?
Jolly West.
Is it?
It is Jolly West. Our favorite.
Was the experimental treatment what I think it is?
We don't know. But
Oh.
we don't know what the experimental treatment is. But that's not where the story is interested. Anyway, long story short, Jimmy Shaver comes into contact with Jolly West. Okay. Now, fast forward a couple months. There's a bar in the area, real close to the base, and a young couple can't sleep. It's around midnight. Okay. They leave their two kids outside of this bar. Two young kids. One of them's a 3-year-old girl. They leave their kids outside of a bar to go in and have a drink because it's so damn hot. They just want a cold beer, right? Well, they come back. They come back outside. The little girl's missing. They can't find her anywhere, so they go in the bar, form a search party. Okay. Someone notifies the local sheriff that, hey, there's a girl missing, and there's a weird guy walking around without a shirt and covered in scratches. So sheriffs find him. The guy is Jimmy Shaver. He's in some sort of trance. Doesn't know who he is. Doesn't know where he is. Doesn't know how he got there or what happened. So the sheriffs look around a little bit more and then find the body of the 3-year-old girl dead in the bushes. And she got basically molested and murdered. And Jimmy Shaver is the lead suspect because he literally came out of the exact same bushes. So they test him at the time, and there is a little bit of alcohol in the system, but not nearly enough for him to be drunk. But he is still in a trance, doesn't know who he is, doesn't know where he is, doesn't know what happened, doesn't know the girl, whatever, yada, yada, yada. Some military officials from the Lackland Air Force Base come and pick him up. Sheriffs release Jimmy Shaver into their custody, and he is taken back into the base. A couple days later, he is returned to the sheriffs to stand trial for the murder.
Okay.
But now he can remember what happened that night. He claims that he was hallucinating at the time of the murder. Still doesn't know the girl, but was hallucinating that that was his cousin, his female cousin, who used to molest him as a kid. And so he hallucinated that he saw his female cousin and then decided to kill her.
Hmm.
Well, the expert witness in the ensuing trial is none other than Jolly West, who then puts Jimmy Schaefer uh, in jail forever.
Yep, sounds about right.
Very interesting indeed.
I mean, that sounds like a Manchurian candidate to me, if there ever was one. I mean, so Jolly West, he was working at UCLA, and the only reason they know any of this stuff is because Jolly West left every single document that he ever had stored at UCLA when he left the department. He's dead now. He died in like 1999.
Yeah. Oh man.
But um, part of those files that he left at UCLA are letters that he wrote to the CIA director, Richard Helms, telling him that, these experiments are need to be tested on the wider public.
Delicious.
And I can't think of, I can't. Anyway, the Jimmy Schaefer case, a lot of people think like that's the test.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
But the CIA was doing tons of shady shit back in like the 50s and 60s.
They're still doing shady shit now.
I was gonna say, I think they're still doing shady shit.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised. But have you guys ever heard of Operation Chaos?
No.
Nope.
So it was basically it was made to like investigate like domestic dissent. So it was basically like a illegal surveillance. It was an illegal like surveillance operation.
Okay.
Again, targeted at like U.S. civilians. It was started in like the mid '60s. I want to say it was like 1965 is when it started. It was basically the CIA counter. Like it was basically like the CIA's like how do you put it? Like basically the CIA's counter to the FBI's COINTELPRO project. Have you guys ever heard of COINTELPRO?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay.
I don't go nearly as far down the rabbit hole as you do, Brad.
Yeah. I black pilled myself.
And I don't even
A
go near
long
the
time
rabbit
ago.
hole at all.
Yeah.
Obsidian pill. Let's be real.
I am Morpheus, offering you guys and the listeners a black pill. I'm
not gonna take it. It might be LSD.
In my right
Nice,
hand,
nice try there.
in my right hand there is a blue pill, and you go back to living. You go back to living in this reality. In my other hand, there's a black pill, and if you take the black pill, you would want to kill yourself. Anyway, but Operation Chaos like targeted like anti-war groups and other ones, but like mostly anti-war groups. They targeted like the Black Panthers. They targeted like the Women's Strike for Peace, which were both like real big. So Operation Chaos had two sub projects. One called Project Merrimack, which was the like infiltration of the like these anti-war organizations. So, I start a new anti-war organization. Brad Hates War, and I start to gain followers and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, a 35-year-old college student comes up to me and goes, "Hey, can I join your organization? I hate war too." And then, 2 years later, I'm dead.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and then there was Project Resistance, which was, again, they worked with like college administrators and stuff like that and campus security to like identify these people and create files for the government. It did target like other groups too. Like there was a lot of the main leaders in like the women's liberation movement, which started about that time around like mid 1960s. Um, they used CIA stations abroad to report on U.S. citizens that were traveling abroad,
Mm.
to figure out whether or not they were meeting with other uh, anti-war activists or whether or not they were anti-war activists themselves. Um, they would use like wiretaps, like electronic eavesdropping, and like physical surveillance and stuff like that. Um,
We
Okay.
we got
and
those in our homes now.
yeah, hey Alexa. Anyway, but Alexa, tell the CIA agent that you know his van's running a little loudly outside. But anyway, and then but domestically, Operation Chaos was also surveilling the Israeli embassy in Washington D.C. and domestic Jewish groups.
Interesting.
Yeah, but when it finally got brought to light, it got brought to light pretty much the same time as MK Ultra. It was all in the church committee hearings and stuff like that. This one did not get purged, and they had documents on 7,200 Americans and a computer index of 300,000 civilians and approximately like 100 political activist groups.
Huh. That's sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then there was the FBI. FBI had a similar operation called COINTELPRO, which stands for basically just like an abbreviation for counterintelligence program, which was started earlier in 1959 and officially, I say that term very loosely, officially stopped in 1971. But again, it was just another like surveillance project aimed at like political organizations. They would infiltrate them, they would discredit them, disrupt them.
Yep.
Um, but the FBI got around a little bit more. Let's just say that. So I've got a list of targeted groups and individuals that the FBI had deemed subversive around that time. So they were surveilling and creating dossiers on leaders in feminist organizations, everyone in the Communist Party,
I mean that one makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
anti-Vietnam organizers, Martin Luther King.
Oof.
Martin Luther King was a victim of COINTELPRO.
That also makes sense.
Nation of Islam, so like essentially black Muslims in the United
Mm-hmm.
States. Black Panther Party, which were rising to prominence, especially in like California and a couple other cities around the United States.
No, we
Yep.
call them Crips and Bloods.
Not quite, Corey.
Uh,
There is a new Black Panther Party. But they were targeting environmentalists and animal rights organizations as well.
Yep.
The American
Yeah.
Indian movement, independence movements. So like basically like Puerto Ricans calling for Puerto Rican independence and stuff like that. I'm
Mhm.
sure. I'm sure they were surveilling some Hawaiians too, and like some white supremacist groups and stuff like that, like the Ku Klux Klan.
Yep.
But a lot of the tactics that they used are still like in use today.
Again, I'm not surprised.
No, not at all.
Tell me if this sounds familiar at all. Just some of their tactics, right? Smear campaigns against groups and individuals using forged documents, planted false reports in the media, harassment, wrongful imprisonment, and assassination.
Just a little.
It sounds familiar,
Yeah.
at least. But the group that they went after the hardest were the Black Panther Party. Um, a lot of the leaders got quote unquote neutralized. Uh, two of them got assassinated. One by another one of the Black Panther Party members, by one of the other leaders after an FBI agent basically told him, "Hey, that guy's going to kill you," and so the Black Panther leader killed the other one in a preemptive strike, preempting something that was completely made up by the FBI. A lot of them got like publicly humiliated, so they would like run stories in the media and stuff like that about how how bad these leaders were and stuff like that. Um, a lot of them went to prison for crimes they didn't commit.
Hmm.
Mostly because then the FBI agents would perjure themselves or harass witnesses or intimidate witnesses or withhold evidence. You know, all the
As you do.
all the fun stuff.
As you do in a normal functioning society.
Yeah, because we've got one of those. Anyway, but like no, the it was COINTELPRO was also used by presidents, whole bunch of presidents. At least the FBI was before COINTELPRO. So like
Yep.
Roosevelt, FDR used the FBI to add citizens that sent telegrams to the White House opposing his national defense policy to basically what amounts to a 1940s watch list.
Yep.
Um, Harry Truman, Corey's favorite, I believe. Harry Truman.
Woodrow Wilson's my favorite.
Oh, anyway, Harry Truman received info on a former aide's efforts to influence his appointments, as well as I'm sorry, received info on a former aide's efforts to influence his appointments. Um, and then he also got the FBI to deliver him like labor unions negotiating plans so he could like shut them down,
Preempt.
preempt them, and then what journalists were planning to publish about him and his government,
But
which
but Truman was the guy that
but he
had
was one of the good ones.
no. He held up the fucking paper that said Dewey won.
Yeah.
And here he is out here like no, they can't say this about me.
Then there was Eisenhower. So Eisenhower got the FBI to surveil like prominent political leaders at the time,
Hmm.
especially the ones that opposed him. Um, Kennedy's administration, um, obviously Kennedy's administration. I mainly mean the Attorney General at the time, Robert F. Kennedy, the guy that got assassinated by an MK Ultra Manchurian candidate, Sirhan Sirhan, used a wiretap to spy on Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah, I knew about that one.
and probably killed him. Anyway, and used electronic listening devices on congressmen. So
Also not a surprise.
yeah,
Yeah, no.
that still happens today.
Yeah.
Lyndon B. Johnson used it to conduct checks on his critics and members of the staff of his 1964 presidential opponent.
That's also not surprising.
No, not at all.
Senator Barry Goldwater, at least he was a senator at the time. He also got political intelligence on his critics in the Senate and intelligence reports on all the activity at the 1964 Democratic Convention. And then Nixon authorized a program of wiretaps through like Watergate and stuff like that, and requested other valuable political information about a Supreme Court justice at the time. And all of this presidential like wiretapping, information grabbing, and stuff like that was again all discovered in the Senate hearings. But the project itself was actually exposed by an anarchist group. Go us! When they
You're so proud. You did something.
well, my predecessors did. They
Yeah.
broke into an FBI field office in Media, PA, and passed the all the material to like the national news agencies. And interesting little bit of fight lore. I know neither of you care, but maybe some of our listeners will. The anarchist group used the Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier fight to provide cover. So it was the fight itself was billed as like the fight of the century. It was taking place like in pay-per-view. Everyone was going by pay-per-view. At that point, you had to like go to a theater to watch it.
Mhm.
And so everyone was super hyped about that fight. Went to go watch it, and they were just like, "Cool, hey, that's the night we're gonna break in and steal all your sensitive documents."
Good for them. Good for them.
But
Hey, man, if it works, it works.
another subject of COINTELPRO surveillance was, interestingly, Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali had a big file on him.
Really?
Yeah,
For what?
that makes sense because he was part of the Nation of Islam.
yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
He used to be called Cassius Clay until he got involved in the Nation of Islam and changed his name to Muhammad Ali.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know much about Muhammad Ali, so
Yeah,
I didn't know any of that.
but yeah, that's about all I have on
Yep.
on that stuff.
Yeah. Well, conspiracies, they're one hell of a thing, man.
Yeah, one hell of a drug.
You can go down a massive rabbit hole of all these things that are interlocking, and whether or not that's how things really are, you'll not know for a long time.
If anyone out there is interested in going down the rabbit hole on these sort of conspiracies, I have two books to recommend. One's a sort of funny, zany, "Wow, our government's so stupid" book called "The Men Who Stare at Goats" by John Ronson. Have either of you ever heard of that book?
I heard of it.
I
But
mean,
haven't read it.
yeah, I've heard of it, but I've not read it, nor have I watched the movie.
Well, the movie is basically a satirized version of the book itself.
Yeah.
Basically, just used the contents of the book to create a fictional story.
Yeah, a satirical piece.
Yeah, but the book itself is about the U.S. Army Special Force. The U.S. Army had a division of Black Ops Special Forces that were specifically um, specifically ordered to basically study the occult and
Okay.
supernatural things to try and create super soldiers. So they were recruited, and the U.S. Army was spending millions and millions of dollars to let like 20 people, like in a dingy office, on I think it was Fort Bragg. They would have 20 so-called psychics, or the I think they were called the New Earth Brigade.
Okay.
They would have these psychics try and kill goats with their minds, or break clouds, or remote view like the Loch Ness monster.
Oh, wow.
Try and figure out where Noriega was hiding by, closing their eyes, thinking very hard, and then drawing the location on a piece of paper.
Didn't work.
No, it did not work. um,
So what's the other book?
the other one is called Chaos. It's by a guy named Tom O'Neill, and that's all about like the Charles Manson murders, as well as like MK Ultra. It's called Chaos, Charles Manson, the CIA, and the Secret History of the 60s.
Okay.
It's a
Well, if you're interested in going down the conspiracy rabbit hole like Brad has, check out those two books. I'm sure you'll have a fun time reading them, and I'm sure that you won't go crazy from reading them or realize what's really going on in the world.
Nothing's going
Nothing.
on in the world. You're all
Nothing's
safe.
ever going on.
You're all safe. Your government
Yep.
loves you.
I believe it's time to transition into our final segment, This Week in Weird News.
I wanted to say my thing.
What do you want to say?
Brad's sitting over there. Ha! You only merely adopted the conspiracy theories. I was born in it, molded by it.
You've only
You could have at least given us a good meme.
you've only recently taken the black pill. I was born with it. I was molded by it.
Anyway, this week in weird news, Corey and Brad, we're gonna play a guessing game.
Hit me.
Something this week was found underneath a Canadian baseball field. What was it?
A body.
No. Corey.
What was it? Some like a drug thing, like a
Nope. You gotta go weirder. Brad.
One of those monoliths that I've been seeing in the news.
No, it was not a monolith.
Is
But
it?
you're getting a bit weirder. I like that, Corey.
Is it a picture of a guy throwing a car battery in the ocean?
No. Still pretty weird, pretty out of place. But Brad, final guess?
Me. I was buried in a Canadian field this week.
No, you aren't.
Oh.
Corey, final guess.
Pretty weird. Think weird.
Can I guess
ET
for him?
game on Atari.
What was it?
The ET game on Atari.
No, you're all wrong.
Can I make one more guess?
Okay, fine, lay it on me.
40 shipping containers full of fleshlights.
No.
Oh.
Construction crews digging up a baseball field in Ontario made a surprising discovery. A World War I era German cannon buried under the pitcher's mound.
Okay.
Officials in Amherstburg said crews were digging up the ballpark, which is to become the site of a new public school, on Monday when they discovered the forgotten cannon that was formerly on display at Centennial Park. City officials said the cannon was brought to the town in 1922 and was displayed alongside a cenotaph at General Amherst High School. The cenotaph was moved into Centennial Park in 1971 to make way for an expansion to the school, and the cannon, which was determined to be in poor condition, was buried underneath the monument. The cannon was then forgotten when the cenotaph was removed in the 1980s and the area was turned into a baseball field, with the gun still buried underneath.
Wow.
How do you just forget that there's a cannon in the middle of the field while you...
It really changes, it was under the pitcher mound. It really changes, the whole meaning behind having a cannon for an arm.
Boo.
As a pitcher.
Boo this man. Boo.
Boo. Boo.
And there's another weird story, wasn't there, that you had for us?
What?
I did have one other weird story. I guess we can do that one as well. Um,
Hold on. What would happen if you are expecting like a fastball, but then you get what type of millimeter was it?
it did not specify. It just
Oh,
said World War I era cannon.
just imagine the splash zone behind the fucking batter.
You're expecting a baseball, and you get an 88 millimeter instead.
Just
That
Really goes down range, if you know what I mean.
yeah.
all right.
How
You-
far away was the pitcher's mound? Was it the regulation 90 feet, or was it like 2 miles?
Who knows? But remember, we need to be talking in metric. This is Canada.
Oh, I'm sorry. Um, 90 feet in metric, whatever that is.
wouldn't that be?
It'd be around. It would be a little. It would be a bit under 30 meters.
How many eagle's feather per square foot is that?
Um, I think it's about 12.
Ah, I see.
Yes.
But yeah.
I think it's about 12 freedom units.
Hmm.
But another and in other weird weekly news, winner only bought lottery ticket to meet minimum purchase requirement. An Australian woman who won a $10,000 lottery jackpot said she only bought the ticket so she could meet the minimum purchase total to use a payment card. The woman, a veterinarian from a place, I'm not even going to try that one, um, said said that she was at the store and ended up buying the ticket as out of necessity. She needed to meet a total of $5, so she just bought a $1 scratch-off ticket called Sheep Thrills and won the $10,000 jackpot. She plans on using the money to shave some time off of her 5-year goal to own a house.
Well,
Just in time for the holidays as well.
it really sucks.
Imagine how lonely you have to be to get $10,000 right before Christmas and say, "Oh man, I know what I'm gonna do with this. I'm gonna put it in a bank to put towards a house. I'm not gonna, give something to charity or buy some extra gifts for somebody. No, I don't have any of those things in my life. I'm just gonna save it."
Really sucks to see people out here living your dream.
Someone, this lady's hoarding all the houses and the luck. I don't. How? Save some for the rest of us, lady.
We know what you would spend it on, Brad. You'd spend it on the land for your compound.
Yeah, I would. I mean,
$10,000 would go about a hundredth of the way, right?
well, I don't need that much land, and I mean, depends. I'm trying to make it like I'm trying to put it like right on the border of Canada, like Montana, like backwoods, known around for miles, perhaps even leagues, uh, known around for miles, right on the border of Canada, and then that way, you know, if the ATF ever comes to get me, I can just like, ATV my way into Canada.
Border hop.
Yeah, you'd still get stopped by the Canadians, dude.
Well, yeah. I guess.
Unlike America and Americans, Canada takes its border security very seriously.
Well, the Canadian feds can suck my dick too.
The Mounties.
Oh, did you hear? Speaking another weird story that I heard today. There was the ATF tried to serve a warrant. I think it was to a family. I want to say it was in Indiana. ATF tried to serve a warrant on a family, just plainclothes ATF officers. So the family refused to open the door, called the police, and told them armed intruders were trying to break into their house. So the police came, tased all the ATF agents, and arrested them.
Nice. I did see that. I think that was great.
Oh, that's wonderful. Love to hear
It's
it.
like I hate the police, or are they the answer to our ATF problem?
They're still teeth of the state. You can't get away from that, though.
Hey, man, in my opinion, you gotta pick your poison.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
I'm gonna pick the one that's not trying to infringe upon rights all the time.
Yeah.
Because remember, Brad, every gun law is an infraction.
Infringement, and you're absolutely right. The only problem is the police officers enforce those laws too.
On occasions. It's usually the ATF, though. Let's be real. The ones that really matter.
I mean, I'd get rid of the ATF before I got rid of the.
I'll put it like this, man. I'll put it like this, okay? When you've got a Browning machine gun in your house, the police ain't coming for you. It's the ATF.
Yeah.
So, and with that, that's going to be it for the minicast of the week. I hope you've had fun. This has been Jay with Brad and Corey. Signing off this week. I hope you have a wonderful time.